Welcome back to the PT Graduate Podcast. Very excited today to welcome my guest all the way from sunny, I hope, Wellington, Sandi Malisic. How are you?
I'm good. It actually is sunny today, so we're
Yes.
pleasantly surprised in Wellington. It's always great when it's sunny in summer, right?
Yeah, exactly. It does what it's supposed to do, right? It's supposed to shine at least for 3 months, if not longer.
Look, not in our city, but we do our best.
No. Funny, actually, I caught a bit of the weather on the TV this morning, and they were talking about how poor old Wellington really hasn't had much of a summer at all.
No, it's been pretty abysmal. I'd say it's the worst one I've seen in a long time. But
Really?
fingers crossed, like I don't want to jinx it or manifest any worse. So we're grateful today.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. So how long have you been in Wellington?
Oh, look, great question. We moved to Wellington. I'm just going to start from the start. I was born in
Yeah.
Bosnia, so I wasn't born
Okay.
here. We moved in the early 90s, so it was during that sort of wartime.
Yeah.
As refugees, we started in Levin for 2 years, sort of 95, 94, 95, and then
Mm.
I moved to Wellington in 96. And we've moved out of Wellington and back to Wellington a few times as a family.
Okay.
And I myself lived in Sydney from 2016 to 2021.
Yeah.
And yeah, I moved back. So I've been Wellingtonian again since 2021.
Okay. Okay. So you had to test it to see that it was the right place to be sure.
Something like that, I think. I think it just keeps calling me back, Rich. I can't seem to
It
help
does.
myself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's got some appeal that obviously works for you.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe some part of me deep down loves this weather.
I mean, it is a great city, right? I mean, the good thing is that once you're in the center, you're on foot and you can go everywhere very easily compared to, say, Auckland.
Absolutely. I think one of the highlights of moving back after Sydney was how much I can walk. I really missed that.
Mm.
And I'd say the people, like, we're so friendly in Wellington. I
Right.
really love that about our little community.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you're a PT at Anytime Fitness, which is at Kent Terrace, and you've been there for a while, which I'll ask more specifically. But you recently took on more responsibility as the club manager.
Yes, yes, I have.
Congrats.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Very excited.
Mm, mm. So when did you start with Anytime?
Yeah, so great question. I actually started as a member of Anytime. So I was PTing externally, and
Mm,
I was at Exodus, which is where I used to work a very long time ago.
mm.
And Exodus closed down as I was having my baby.
Yeah,
And they sent an email, where do you want to go to next? And I missed that because I was in the thick of the newborn days.
yeah.
And once I sort of got my things together and it was time to start training again, I messaged the lovely owner, Craig, whose wife had had a similar story with me in my birth story, and he was very
Right.
accommodating. And so I came in as a member and fell in love with it.
Mm.
I actually sort of bullied Craig into hiring me.
Good on you.
So funny story, they weren't looking for a trainer at all. I pitched how I could make it work because they didn't want too many PTs per member, which
Yeah,
absolutely respect that. But
yeah.
I was coming in with clients and I just thought, I love this club. It's clean, it's friendly. It made me feel really welcome. I'd say the most vulnerable stage of my life in training,
Mm, mm,
after having a baby, a C-section, starting from
mm.
quite literally the ground up.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, once I convinced Craig, that was, I'd say, oh gosh, when was that? Maybe October, August potentially. It was all a blur in those newborn days of 2023. And then I
Right.
came on as a PT in 2024 at the beginning of the year.
Okay. Very
Yeah.
cool. Very cool. Yeah. Ah, exciting. Good on you for backing yourself as well. I think that's a great story.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad it worked out in the end.
Yeah. Yes. It clearly did, and now you have a bit more responsibility as club manager. So, how is that transition for you? Because I imagine that's not a unique situation where someone who's an existing member of the team ends up stepping up for whatever reason because they're the right person for the job, but. But how do you cope with that shift? Because I imagine that time is then split between certain responsibilities. Obviously, you've still got clients, but then you've got administrative duties, managerial duties. How does it all fit together?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I guess the long and short of it is I came from club management prior. So I've worked as a club
Ah,
manager uh, in Wellington at a boutique gym, and then I went to Fitness First in Australia, and I worked at several different clubs as a club manager. And one of my learnings was because I was a trainer initially. One of my learnings was I loved keeping up PT alongside club management, and I felt it was extremely important to keep me relevant from that perspective on the floor.
mm, mm,
And so the transition has been within the same facility has been, rewarding and challenging. But
mm,
as a trainer, your focus is usually sort of individual success.
mm.
But in management, it's that bigger picture, that team
Yeah,
development
yeah.
and operations, member experience. So I guess it's an exciting shift because it allows me to combine the coaching skills and leadership and strategy
Mm.
into the bigger space.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. And so, how do you, so real nitty-gritty stuff then. So, how do you manage that with trainers who were your colleagues to trainers who now technically report to you?
Yeah, yeah. So with my initial sort of start with that has been to meet with them over coffee because I think the
Mm,
best thing I can do is build that trust and let that progress naturally as opposed to force a change. It's really, I mean, I've got along with all the trainers here really well, which is we're quite lucky that we're all very team focused. But I guess it's such a building block. It's going to take time for that transition to fully switch. And
mm,
such a large part of it is getting buy-in and making sure that we're on the same page. And I guess naturally I'm quite people focused. So
mm,
that's
mm.
immediately where my instincts take me.
Fair enough. Yeah,
Yeah.
good on you. I think that's a nice approach. Going to a different location to have those conversations, so it's sort of neutral ground.
Yeah.
And obviously that's deliberate, which means that, everybody's a little bit more relaxed and you can have more relaxed conversations, I suppose. Yeah.
100%. I think it resonates with me. A sort of a boss I had a long time, or manager I had a long
Mm,
time said, when you've got good people and you treat them well, the job does itself. And I'm
mm,
a huge believer in that.
mm, mm, mm. It reminds me of Richard Branson, who always said that his employees came first over his customers. And some people were uncomfortable with that approach, but I think it is the right one because, the logic is that then those people are happy in doing what they're doing, and as you say, the other stuff takes care of itself because customers are treated well.
Couldn't agree more.
Mm, mm, mm. It's good. And so, is that an anytime ethos, or is that something that has been driven by Craig's culture, or is it a bit of a combination of both in terms of how you guys operate as a team?
Absolutely a combination of both.
Right.
The club's sort of core values focus on inclusivity, friendship, and willingness. And I think that willingness comes from all of us being willing to not just help customers, but each other. And Craig goes above and beyond. He
Yeah.
really is one of a kind.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's why I keep coming back to you guys and asking for more guests. And
Yeah.
this happened actually with Tash, who's in Dunedin. She won an award similar to you guys last year. No, it wouldn't be last year because you guys won last year. Year before, I think, maybe a different category. But the reason I bring it up is that you come across someone who's quite a dynamic, inspirational leader, and you see that reflected so well in the team that you want to just find out more and you want to keep asking questions. So when you've interviewed that person, it's like, right, who else in their team can I talk to? And I think I ended up talking to sort of two or three of the other ladies who made up most of her team. And it's the same with you guys. Starting talk to Hannah originally because she had been through the awards process and that was the purpose for contacting. But then I Craig came on my radar and then we met at conference and at the awards dinner. So I spoke to him and of course now yourself. So yeah, there's some special stuff in there and I think for people listening, it's really important to note these things down, to pick up what you guys are doing and what Tasha's team are doing because it's not an accident that you then go and win awards. You know, there are things that you guys are doing in your day to day which are just that little bit more special and worth finding out what the ingredients are to that. So yeah, good on you. It's great that you're living all those values so well.
Thank you. As a team, we're extremely grateful and flattered that that's how you view us. I think,
I'm just a nobody podcaster. It has no, it's the people that recognize the awards, you know, the customers. That's what really matters, right?
look, absolutely, that is the core reason why we do it. It's not just to get on podcasts, but Craig and Hannah did sort of mention to me I was stealing their 15 seconds of fame. So
So you're gonna have to maybe do one extra post when this comes out, than one less than they did, just so you can, you know, blow your own trumpet a little bit.
that's it.
So tell us a little bit more about sort of what niche you occupy in terms of your PT business and the clients you serve, and why that's important to you.
Yeah. So actually, since I've started as a trainer, I've my sort of goal client was always women, and
Right.
initially I wasn't just doing female clients. I was taking on male clients as well. And over a
Mm,
certain period, I realized that the best version of me comes out when I'm resonating with something and helping people that I really, really empathize with.
mm,
And my own core values lie with empathy, personal growth, and adventure.
right.
And I saw women as a space that was under researched at the time, and still now actually, undervalued. I guess underserved is the words I want to
Right.
use. And so that resonates deeply. And I did a lot of my own research over the years to get more understanding around pre and postnatal, menopause, things like that, that aren't necessarily always included in a
Mm,
application. And yeah, I guess over time that's naturally grown. That's who I've found has been drawn to me and vice versa. Not to say that I don't absolutely love men too. It just happens to be what fills my cup in the PT space.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and hence why I've also in the past teamed up with Hannah.
Gotcha. Yes, that leads me nicely onto the female focused fitness seminars that you guys have run. Tell us a little bit about those.
Yeah, so we ran a menstrual cycle and how that affects training. Not just training, though, we actually spoke about energy levels, how to fuel, and we left a really decent space for questions. And the goal
Mm,
with the seminar, not just that one and the others, is has been very much to get more understanding, to provide education, and to create a safe space within a female tribe. So we've
yeah.
got a little bit of a girl group going that can
Yeah.
all relate to each other and have more, I guess, more people that are going through the same scenario, like-minded situations and thoughts. That first one was really, really successful. And since then, we've had requests for an online version. We're not the only people
Ah,
doing it, but and within our hub, we've seen it as something that's become quite popular. And we've transitioned it into social events because we'll find topics will come up even smoother when we make it more of an outing, like a board game night. And then other topics will come up because they are, like you mentioned, taking a staff member off site. Same thing with your clients. They're
yeah.
relaxed. They feel safe in a space to be like, oh, I've always wanted to bring this
Mm,
up. Now,
okay.
this random board game.
Yeah.
That's been really, really, I guess, rewarding for both Hannah and I to see.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've kept in touch with those people that attended the workshops and sort of have kept that tribe going, but made it more social.
Yeah, so we've built it from not just our own clients, but anyone that was sort of spoken to on the gym floor that we think would be relevant.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've kept it going. It's this year, I guess, with my change to the club manager role, we've had a little bit of a pause, but we will be back in that space with more
Yeah.
coming. And we've actually extended some of the focus to speaking to other professionals to see who we can get in to speak to those groups as well. So it's not just from ourselves.
Yeah. I like it. I like it. So one of the questions that sort of jumps into my mind is that because Anytime Fitness is a franchise, and there are some fairly sort of strict rules about operating a franchise because of you know, maintaining brand integrity and all those other things that are important to organizations that have franchises. Does it allow you enough freedom to do the things you want to do, both sort of individually as a PT business, but also the group type thing that you're talking about, are there any restrictions on how you do those things?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess we run everything by Craig to make sure that we
Yeah,
are within the brand's sort of means and what we're allowed to do.
yeah,
Um, at this point, like some of those seminars are actually off-site, but
yeah,
we don't necessarily print everything out in the club and advertise it that way. It's usually
yeah,
word. Craig's always been supportive and has always offered to attend. At this point, we've still kept it quite female specific,
yeah,
so we haven't allowed it yet, but we will. So, in terms of if it's a conflict, it hasn't been at the moment. One of the things we do always naturally, I guess, say and I guess encompass is we advocate the club anyway. So I think there's a piece that's exposure for the club too. I mean, I run an external boot
yes.
to the club, and
Mm.
some of them are members. Some of them have become members from the boot camp.
Ah,
So it's worked kind of in a nice both ways success at the moment.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So yes, so this is Capital City Bootcamp.
Correct, yes, Capital City Boot Camp.
Tell me a bit about that.
So I initially started doing boot camp I just finished being a student back in 2014.
Mm.
And my tutor actually hired me for his boot camp once I'd finished.
Yeah.
And his name is Ben Montague.
Mm.
And we started running, I more or less worked for Ben's boot camp at the time.
Yep.
Did that until I moved to Sydney. So very consistently, loved it. It fills my cup. Got some clients from it too. So, it
Right.
worked both ways. Came back and I worked at New Zealand Institute of Sport when I first returned as a tutor, and Ben was tutoring still. So
Ah.
we'd stayed in touch over the years. He'd still
Mm.
mentored me, and then I said to him, "Let's do it again, but let's do it together this time."
Mm.
He was super receptive, and so in 2021, Capital City Boot Camp was born, uh,
Okay.
and yeah, it's been going ever since.
Great. So how often do you get out and run the boot camps?
We run them in 5 week blocks usually. I do
Okay.
the Thursdays, Ben does the Tuesdays, so we take a
Yeah.
day each.
Yeah.
It's an all-female boot camp, and at
Okay.
one point we did a sort of evening trial with it being mixed, but at that time I was pregnant, so it
Mm.
didn't quite give it what it deserved, so we ended up sticking to the mornings. And yeah, I guess that I'd say for both Ben and I, it's definitely our fun thing. I don't
Yeah.
think it's been our main business calling in life,
Yeah.
but we absolutely love it. And I think it would be weird for us to not do it at this point.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and as you said, it works both ways, right? It's not specifically an anytime fitness activity, but by doing it, you're actually bringing people into the facility and signed up members.
Yeah, and but I mean, we don't run classes specifically. So yes, we also bring people in, and because we don't run classes specifically, it's not a direct conflict of this
Yeah.
particular anytime
Yeah.
fitness. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. And so I'm assuming it's outdoors and it's close to the water and it's, a spectacular location.
Yeah, beautiful Wellington. As glamorous as others, there can be a bit of rain, and then we have a rain location. But
Excellent.
for the most part, it's stunning, beautiful sunrises right on the waterfront at Frankheads. It's
Yeah.
gorgeous.
Yeah. Great start to the day, eh?
That's it.
Yeah, brilliant. I also noticed that you're a bit of a reader and you're into the self-development side of things. What,
Absolutely.
well, the one that springs to mind is Dale Carnegie, which is it's kind of one of the classics, really, isn't it? It's like it's unusual that people either haven't heard of it or haven't read it because it's just, uh, you know, um, how to win friends and influence people is 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 one that you just don't miss, I suppose, is one way of saying it. So if you're listening and you haven't read it, then I'd recommend you go and do that now. But is that sort of just a natural thing for you to want to read those things, upskill, to develop yourself?
Yeah, it's like I mentioned earlier, it's sort of a core value of mine is
Mm,
personal growth. And if there was one thing I wish I had all the time in the world for, it would be reading. I think there's so much I've learned from books and so much
mm,
that I get inspired by. I like a focus of the week or something that I can bring to my clients that invigorates me and can be taken into a learning piece for all of us.
yeah,
Um, and I think it just refreshes the mind. So absolutely, how to win friends and influence people is I refer to those steps when I need to, and I sometimes write down quotes when they pop back up and are relevant. And I try to one of the books I loved is a book on personality profiling. I wish I could remember the exact author right now. It's a book on disc personality profiling.
Yeah, yeah,
Rocked my world when I first started working in the sales side of the fitness industry.
yeah.
I had a massive, and sorry to go on a bit of a tangent, but I had
No,
a
no, go.
massive block with, I mean, I'd always been a PT, I'd done a bit of management, but when I moved to Sydney, I'd never done sales. At least I hadn't thought I was of myself in that
Yeah,
space.
yeah,
When I learned more about disc personality profiling, it changed the game for me because I didn't see sales as selling. I very much saw it as tailoring my approach to people. And they talk about, the golden rule is you treat others how you
mm,
want to be treated, and then the
mm.
platinum rule is you treat others how they like to be treated. And yeah, just mind blowing after that.
Yes, subtle shift, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Love that. So did you sort of go down that rabbit hole with the disc profiling stuff and find out more about that?
Absolutely. I
Yeah,
think I went deep down that rabbit hole.
love it.
Not to, I don't think we all are perfectly one category all the time or anything
No.
like that. Lock people up in boxes, but I do think it's helped me understand people that perhaps I wouldn't have otherwise understood just from being totally different as a personality and an experience.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We kind of get given a home base letter in the disc profiling, don't we? But you're right. We don't just stay there the whole time. There's other aspects of our personality depending on the situation that come out, according to the environment, according to who's in front of us, all sorts of different reasons. Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. It really is a rabbit hole for sure.
Absolutely.
Other favorites that sort of off the top of your head that you've finished or that you're still reading or worth sharing?
I mean, Atomic Habits is another classic by James
Yeah,
Clear.
yeah,
It's a fantastic one, especially if you're working with anyone wanting to change something. It's such a fantastic way of breaking it down to those small steps that we often talk about in the industry. Um, I quite like poetry on a side note, which often people go, how is that personal growth? I think the empathy side of me quite likes to read more in that space as well to balance things out.
yeah.
Yeah, so one of the philosophies I love is Maya Angelou's sort of quote where she says, people forget what you did, people forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And I try and find something that resonates in that space too all the time.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. I was listening to, I don't know if you listen to the Not So Breakfast podcast with Ish from Les Mills and Sasha Coburn, but one they did an episode on coaching and it was really good, and I love that stuff. And he said that one of the coaching questions he asked his team is, how do you want other people to experiencing how do you want other people to experience that coaching process with you, or even just how do you want people to experience an interaction with you? So you're
Mm.
sort of you're pre-thinking about how that interaction is going to go and what you want the other person to walk away feeling and thinking. And I think that ties into that Maya Angelou quite beautifully, doesn't it? In terms of it's not transactional, it's much more, it's much a much deeper level, from a human point of view when we interact with each other.
I think it ties in perfectly, and I think I wish I had heard that on the podcast. I think one thing that we've hopefully all realized from COVID and lockdown is just how much those interactions really mean,
Yeah,
even if they're little.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I made a concerted effort to be more interactive with those small transactions, and I think it was as a result of COVID. But the contact points we still had to have were, supermarket. So the poor person sitting on the other side of the screen who had to be there, who probably didn't want to be there, and rather than just paying and walking out, actually having a conversation through the perspex with them and asking how their day is. And just little bits. And if even the barista, if you're allowed to order online and pick up the cup, through the window or whatever it was we had to do, but not more than just the transaction, just making it a bit more human.
100%. Yeah, I think we all benefit from those small interactions being positive, and if we can make someone's day, why wouldn't we, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Nah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. I think, and as someone else said, and I don't know who it was, it's you never know who else you're inspiring. You might be going about your day doing your thing, but actually someone will see it in a certain way that's really had a big impact on them, and you just carry on oblivious, and you've actually had a significant impact. So it's important to be aware of those things, isn't it?
I think so. I think we've gone through so much in the last sort of block with COVID, haven't we? That a lot of people have reevaluated and realised that. And I think empathy, I'd like to think, is still high. And if that's one of the wins we can take away from something like that, what a great positive to take.
Absolutely. I've been taking some notes here, Sandy, because I'm enjoying getting your tips, but now is the time for me to ask you specifically what those might be, which is the theme of the podcast at the end of every episode is what are Sandy's top tips? And, it could be personal, it could be business, it could be whatever it is that works for you.
Right. The first one, and it may be controversial, but I've popped down never get complacent because I think in this industry we should always be growing. And if we're
Mm,
confident in something, we should get curious.
mm,
So
like
that
that.
popped to mind immediately.
Love it.
The second one, I again could be controversial, but it's how I like to live my life. Is I think in within the fitness industry, we should share great ideas and not keep them as secrets. I think we're in competition with something far greater than each other, and that's unhealthy lifestyles. People
Yeah,
struggle, McDonald's, if you will.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
important we share and see what we that inspires. Um, and lastly, I've actually written down a quote.
Ah,
I'm a bit cheesy, and like I said, I'm a
nah,
reader.
all good.
And I wish I knew who the quote was by. I actually read it in a diary book long ago when I was managing one day.
Mm.
Quote is to inspire people, show them their superpower, not yours.
I'm just scribbling.
I find that one quite, I think that one came to me when it really needed to. I think I had it was midst of COVID in Sydney. We'd open up with
Mm.
a lot of restriction. It was really hard. We copped, well, not copped, but we had a lot of interactions that were perhaps negative because
Right.
people felt frustrations at those restrictions.
Mm.
It just reminded me that it's actually not about me, and we all know that intuitively deep down. But I needed
Mm.
to hear that quote and to remind myself
Mm.
that it's ultimately about inspiring other people, and still resonates today.
Yeah, yeah, I really like that, and I haven't heard that before, but I did. As you say, it definitely resonates. So that's scribbled down, and it will be going in the show notes. Excellent, love your tips; those are really good. And that second one about sharing those great ideas. We're not competing against each other. I haven't heard it put like that either. We are competing against an unhealthy lifestyle. And it's interesting some of the things that are coming through now. I see some of the US celebrities going to Congress and having sort of 10, 15 minutes being able to have an open mic and actually put their side of the argument in terms of what is happening in the food industry and politically and that's where the change needs to occur. And I think you're absolutely right. It isn't about competing. It's about when you discover something that's useful, everybody should have access to it. Mm.
Couldn't agree more. In fact, I think you've put it better than I did.
No, 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 I don't think so. But you're right, McDonald's is a good example, but I keep, obviously your feed is curated to the things that you like, right? So all I've got is um, gym scenes and nutrition things go one after the other. And talking about processed oils, for example, was the one that I saw this morning, and how it's the silent killer because
Yeah.
everybody's using them, and they're just inflammatory in their nature. But they've been sort of made out to be the healthy option, and they're not necessarily helping us. So we've got to look out for ourselves, but I think we've got to look out for each other because some people don't necessarily know all the things that they need to know, and without sort of beating them over the head with it, we're here to share that information.
Absolutely. There's just so much confusion out there, isn't there?
Mm,
With
mm,
everything being so accessible and so much misinformation, I can't imagine having not come from the fitness industry and opening up social media where I would begin. It's,
mm. Scary,
yeah.
really scary. Well, where can people find you, Sandy? Are you I think you've got an Insta, haven't you?
I do. My Insta handle is Sandy Fit NZ,
Yeah.
and then I got LinkedIn as well with my name Sandy with an I, Malisic,
Yeah.
with my wonderful pronunciation there, which everyone gets confused.
Better than mine.
I'm always happy to connect and share ideas. So
Yeah.
that's the two best spots.
Excellent. Cool. I'll grab those and chuck them in the show notes, and people can look you up if they want to.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Rich. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Cheers.
Bye.